Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's important. I think it's really important to do it here. Do it while you have a chance to face them head to head. I mean, there's no better way to win the division than win the team that's fighting to crawl back and to take the division and keep it keep them as division champs. So it's an opportunity for us to do it here, do it versus them, and not have it kind of what they say when you have it in your own hands. We have what about the phrase? They say it again. Yeah, control your own destiny. That's what we have. We have a chance to do it here, and I know we can do it down the road. But why not doing this weekend at home with division opponent coming in that plays at a high level, and looking forward to being in front of the fans and gather with my teammates. And it's fun to play. It's fun to play in these type of games. It's what you strap up your helmet and put on the shoulder pads for.
Why not? That's the question posed by Drake Maye, of course, before the media this week as the Patriots get set to play host to the Buffalo Bills and look to win both games against their division rival in the 2025 campaign here. Keagan, Stiefel, Jade McCarthy here with you on Foxborough Rush. And to set the stage for this weekend, we got lots ahead here. We'll touch upon what's already happened in Week 15. We'll make some pick'ems later in the show. But right now, let's start by saying hello, good morning, and welcome to Alex Barth from 98.5, the Sports Hub. I'm just like confusing the hub and the Barth at the same time, so let's bring them together, and here you are with us. Look, great to have you here as always, and this is a big week for the Patriots, right? And it's not a must-win. Like, they don't have to win this game to win the division. You're kind of looking up like maybe this is a must-win, Alex. Like, I'm curious, where do you stand on this one? Because you can look at this game a number of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, on paper it's not, right? They can still get in, but you don't want to be the team that backs into the playoffs. I go back to a couple years ago, sorry to cross sports here, but the Red Sox clinched the playoffs. They were at Yankee Stadium and they lost, but they still clinched the playoffs. This was like, I think 2022, 2023, something like that. And they had like that weird champagne celebration where like nobody was happy. They lost the game late. And then they just never kind of felt right after that. And I'm not saying that this team is that Red Sox team, but like you get a little bump, I think. You get a little something extra by, knocking the king off the throne yourselves, right? Just taking that crown right off their heads, which is what the Patriots have a chance to do this weekend. And it also gives you, look, the one seed's still important, and that's still something we'll definitely be monitoring. But in terms of resting veterans, not want to show your whole hand, things like that, it gives you a little more flexibility over the final 3 weeks of the season. So it's not a must win. They can still win the division. And frankly, they still should win the division, even if they don't win this game. But why leave it up to that? Why leave the door open as any longer than you need to leave it open? And again, I think it's a long season, and I think these guys are having a ton of fun. The vibe around the team this year has been awesome. I think guys are genuinely like enjoying themselves. It doesn't feel like it's been a drag, but it is a long season. And anytime you can get a bump like the one they would get by beating the Buffalo Bills to win the division at home, by the way, that you're going to ride that a little bit. You'd rather have that than not have it.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
like that you mentioned the maybe not showing your whole hand for the rest of the season. If you take care of business now, you can really coast against three teams. The Baltimore Ravens are talented, but we've seen what they are this year, and they've just really struggled to carry any sort of consistency week over week. And then obviously we know what the Dolphins or the Jets are. When it comes to not wanting to show their whole hand and preparation and all those different things, what have you seen this week from the team, obviously being down there at practice and just kind of talking to, Coach Vrabel and Drake Maye and all the players? How are they entering this game? Is it any different than some of the weeks past that we've seen where they've really been very comfortable, it looks like, but this is a tough one for them?
I think it's a little different just coming off the bye, more so than the stakes of the game. I think guys are really looking forward to get back at it. And what their routine was to start the year was nuts. They had 10, not only did they have the late bye, their first 10 games were on Sundays. So no mini bye, no Monday Night Football, and only one of those games was a night game. So they really kind of locked into that routine. So to get out of it, again, like I said, it's been, the vibes have been good. I think guys like being in the locker room there. They like being with their teammates. They're enjoying the process of it, not just the winning, but the process of it. So I think there's some eagerness to get back to that, regardless of who the opponent is. The opponent probably helps, but if there's a difference, it's that, you've heard some guys, Diggs, talking about the stakes and like they're glad they're underdogs and things like that. It's not something they've had to talk about much this year because they really haven't been underdogs this year, really going back to that first Bills game. But I do think there is an eagerness maybe coming off the bye week.
Yeah, a little motivation, right, to get back out there, get on the field, play some football. For Diggs, we know he's motivated against this Buffalo team. We saw him have, his best game of the season up there in Orchard Park, where, of course, he used to play many a game, helped build Josh Allen into who he is as a quarterback right now. I want to go big picture one more before we kind of hone in on this game specifically. But you mentioned, obviously, the 1 seed, which is it really is critically important, right? Like you get the week off, which is huge when it comes to rest, could be really significant when it comes to Will Campbell. I know there's been positive reports around him, but look, every week further in and further removed from the injury is every week that he's a little bit closer to 100%. So I think that's significant. And you look at the standings right now, and obviously it's Denver who's sitting there in the top spot. They have a huge game as well this weekend. But I mean, you talk about controlling their own destiny, Alex. They control their own destiny. If they can win out, then the Denver Broncos will be the 1 seed in the AFC. That said, when you look at their road ahead versus New England's road ahead, there's a sizable difference there. So this is certainly New England's not destiny to control it, but if they take care of their own business, there's a lot of reason to believe that they could move their way into that top spot. How do you look at that?
I think this is the week where it potentially flips. It's funny. We've all been looking at, for weeks now, that game in Kansas City on Christmas. Well, the Chiefs are going to be that's going to be their playoff lives. They're going to need that to get in the playoffs. You're going to get the best version of the Chiefs. It's going to be in Kansas City, prime time, blah, blah, blah. And now, are the Chiefs going to be like coasting? Are they just going to be done? Are they going to be out of it? Maybe we don't count on that game. Meanwhile, you got the Packers who are playing some great football. Toyota-thon Jordan Love, look it up if you're not familiar, is a force to be reckoned with. So this is kind of the week where it could flip. Now, the Patriots have a tough opponent as well, but if they're going to get ahead of them, I think this is probably the week it happens that they get ahead of them. I'm trying to remember the other Broncos games. I know they have the Chargers late. The Chargers are hit and miss. I'm not a huge, they're a good football team, but I think the Broncos are clearly better, and it's also at home for Denver. And then I think the other one is the Jaguars, which is kind of the same thing. So I just think if it's going to flip, this is the week it's going to flip.
In terms of the game itself, we talk about, kind of the big picture stuff, but Patriots Bills this week, from what we've seen, it looks like things are trending in the right direction for the Patriots injury wise and in the wrong direction for Buffalo. Terrell Bernard obviously popped up with a toe injury. He's wearing a walking boot. But on the Patriots side, Jared Wilson back in practice, Kyrus Tonga, Brennan Schooler, all these guys. We've seen Vidarian Lowe pop up, but that looks like maybe a midweek kind of give him a break before you ramp him back up before the game. How do you feel about the health going into the game on both sides?
So for the Bills, you mentioned the Christian Benford injury. That's potentially significant because the Bills secondary is not good, and they've dealt with a lot of injuries. They're playing a lot of young players more than they should probably be playing at this point in their careers. Benford's been the guy, and you go back and you look at that first game and you listen to kind of the Buffalo takeaway, and one thing people have talked about is they didn't show Stephon Diggs enough respect in that game coverage-wise, which I think is correct. And talking about, well, does Benford shadow him? Because Benford only, I think, played single-digit snaps against him in coverage in that game. Well, if Benford's got a bad toe, that's going to be a lot harder, and that can be long speed. So if I'm the Patriots, I'm mixing in some sort of shot play to target Benford early in the game and see how well he's running. On the Patriots side, they are getting healthier. We'll see if Bosa comes back. Now, Will Campbell being out, Vidarian Lowe, that's a tough matchup. The big one for me, though, and I think there's been a lot of talk this week. Okay, well, how viable is the Week 5 tape? How much do you look at that game and build the game plan off of that and what happened? And the answer is some. The answer, like always, is some, not all. But I think the biggest X's and O's change on either side in this game is the Patriots not having Milton Williams, who they won't have. He's still on IR. He can't return yet. Maybe it was because it was Drake May's breakout game. I don't know. Milton Williams did not get enough talk after that game about how well he played against the Buffalo Bills, against the run and pass. And his athleticism loomed so large in the way they contain Josh Allen. And not having him, now Christian Barmore can do some of that, but you only have one of those guys now, not two. They should get Tonga back. That should help against the run. But that's the biggest concern to me for the Patriots going into this game. Milton Williams played such a large role last time out. How do they replicate that without Milton Williams?
Yeah. One of the things that struck me just looking at the numbers recently is that, the Patriots defense is so good at keeping opposing offenses from reaching the red zone, right? Like they've really kept them away from that portion of the field. But then when they get to that portion of the field, man, do they burn you or what? So how significant is that to you in terms of just limiting these drives? Because, we saw Josh Allen, break free and go 40 yards, and he has the ability to do that. But if they get in there, it's just hard to see them not scoring with Josh Allen at quarterback and James Cook running the football.
It's a good question. It's tough because against Josh Allen, you want to take away the big play. That's first and foremost. And their traditional downfield passing game is not as good as it's been. That's more about who's around Allen than Allen himself. But he has 4 or 5 seconds to run around back there. Somebody eventually is going to run away from their defender, and he's going to be able to heave it, or he's going to find room to run. So you want to take away that big play. But also, if you kind of let them nickel and dime their way down the field, they probably are going to get into the red zone, and they are, like you said, a great red zone team. So how do you split that difference? And I think that's one of the big challenges for them in this game. Last time out, it was turnovers. They were able to force 3 turnovers. The Bills put the ball on the ground on their own a couple times, but I look at, and I think people going into this game, some look at it and say, well, you can't count on the Bills to turn the ball over 3 times. Well, they've turned it over 3 times in 3 of their last 5 games. And that doesn't mean they're going to turn it over 3 times in this one, but they're not exactly a clean football team. They turned the ball over 8 times all of last season. They've already turned it over 18 times this season. So, it's taking advantage of the mistakes when the Bills make them. It's taking away that big play and then really winning. And it's where they've been really good this year. Across the 50 to the 35-yard line, that range. We've seen a lot of Patriots opponents this year have to attempt long field goals or punt from right around the 50. Yep. That's where the defense really needs to win. What I like for the defense in this game, we've seen them play this really since Christian Gonzalez came back, this off coverage, this very cushiony coverage where they're allowing the underneath plays to be caught, stepping up, making the tackle, very much bend, don't break. And it's worked. I don't want to knock it too much, but I feel like when you have Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, you can be a little more aggressive. The one game they've played that way was the first game against the Bills. So I do wonder if they go back to that this week, at least at times.
A lot of the times these things come down to individual matchups, especially when you talk about 2 teams who are fairly close and kind of when the game's expected to be close. I think for me, the biggest one is who the hell is going to cover Dalton Kincaid? He's such a game breaker when he's right, and they're so bad against tight ends. They have been for a lot of this season. So in your mind, how do they change? You mentioned kind of the off coverage, keeping those corners on the outside, but how do you change things up to keep him in check? Because I think there's really not a whole lot of attention that needs to be paid to individual wide receivers so much as, the 2 tight ends out there, and specifically Kincaid.
It's a great question, Keagan. Can they draft Sonny Styles before the game on Sunday? It's
nice.
But that being said, so in the last game, they contained Allen, relatively speaking. They contained Cook. They contained Khalil Shakir. He had 1 big catch, but he didn't do a ton. Kincaid had over 100 yards, and they still won the game. Now, they took him away in the red zone. You have to do that, but you're not good. They're not going to hold the Bills to 150 yards of offense. We just know that, right? Somebody's going to get something, and they seem to have a formula last time where if it all had to be funneled through Kincaid, they could still make that work. Now, the Bills, if we flip it, if it's Orchard Park Rush, we're going to be talking about you got to get the ball to Kincaid, and that's where you got to attack them. And so there's an adjustment there, but this sounds like kind of a cop-out. My wonder has been, if Dalton Kincaid's the one guy that beats you, is that enough for the Bills to win the game? If Dalton Kincaid is I think it was 6 catches for 100 something in the last matchup, right? If he does that and you just keep him out of the end zone in the red zone, and that's it, and you're able to shut down Cook and you're able to shut down Shakir, is that enough to beat the Bills? They just may have to figure out the game plan where that works.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, it's essentially like you're taking him out of the game enough that he can't beat you independently on his own.
Right.
And you've limited everybody else to the point where they're just not going to be able to put up enough points. Right. I mean,
right. Not like,
you know, and it's that whole like 23, right? Like 10 games, they've put up more than 23. Right. They've allowed fewer than 23. If you tell me that they're going to hold Buffalo below 23, I think they can score more than 23 against Buffalo's defense.
Right. Like, I mean, you can't like Kincaid go for like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, obviously. But if it's all funneling through him, there's only so much they can do at that point.
Yeah. I worry if they have the horses to keep him from doing that. That's just, I think that's the big thing. It's like, yeah, it's.
Well, he only had 100 something in the first game, so.
Him coming off the game he had, and we will get to the the game prediction, but him coming off the game he had against Cincinnati and the way they've just decided that they're going to play offense, which is we're going to run it down your throat, we're going to funnel it through the tight ends, and Josh Allen's going to go hero mode. I don't think that's necessarily a crazy thing to think that they might not be able to stop that. That's just where I'm at.
Those are weaknesses the Patriots have. It's not a sustainable form of offense long term. It just happens to match up well with where the Patriots defense is at.
Yeah.
Who do you got for the game?
So what do you think?
I think it's going to be lower scoring than people think. It's funny, you mentioned the 23 number. I said on Patriots Hub podcast, which people can check out on the Sports Hub YouTube channel, 24-21 Patriots. So I think the Bills get a lead, maybe, even, get up 7-0. I know it doesn't work for my score, but maybe like 10-0. And then I think the Patriots settle in, good second half. It's supposed to start snowing right around 2:00. If we really are back to the golden days, anybody who grew up watching the Patriots remembers those games where they're in a dogfight for the first half, start snowing right around the 2-minute warning, get into halftime, and boom, the Patriots come out in the second half, another team. Like, do we get one of those? So I'm going to go 24-21 Patriots.